Yoga with Cynthia. I'm Cynthia Bialik, and both the host and the producer for this program. And Irene Faithful is faithfully here with me on most of our shows. And today's yoga program is going to be centered around different ways of using a block. Now, some of you may just be starting off your yoga journey and get a kit that includes a yoga block and a strap and a mat and not really know what to use the block for. So we're going to show you a lot of different ways of using the block to your advantage. First, starting with some balance poses, and then starting with stabilization poses for the joints. So let's begin. We're going to start in the front end of our mats. If you have a yoga mat, go ahead and bring it. Put it on a non-skid surface, and let's go. So we're going to line up our big toes, and we want to find neutral spine. Now, that's a difficult task for some of you if you have poor posture. But I want you to think about lining up your toes and lifting your kneecaps up towards your thighs. So tighten up those quads, and then let your rib cage pull up towards the ceiling. So just take your navel into your spine, and when you lift your rib cage up, you should feel the shoulders naturally rock back towards the rear of your mat. Don't turn your palms this way because that's forcing your shoulders back in an uncomfortable fashion. You want to relax the shoulders and just let your arms hang so the hands are facing into your thighs. And we're going to start just with our yogic breathing. So the breathing in yoga is in through the nose and out through the nose. We're going to keep our mouth closed and do a cycle of 4 breaths. So just close your mouth right here. And we're breathing in and out through the nose with our mouth closed, pulling up through the crown of your head and thinking about all those elements, lifting your kneecap up, drawing your navel into the spine, lifting your rib cage to the ceiling, and letting your shoulders roll back. Continue breathing 2 more cycles of breath. Okay, let's open the eyes and we're ready to roll. We're going to warm the body because in yoga, we do demand a lot of the body in terms of flexibility. And sometimes, even if we're in a warm environment, our bodies just are not warm biomechanically to have the blood flow circulating through all the parts of the body. So our muscles are still tight and not nourished properly, so you don't get that full stretch in the muscles. So let's start here by just lifting up off the heels and putting those heels back down on the floor. We're going to do that 10 times all together, so just a few more. 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. Now let's take the arms up in the air, lift the chest up high. Then we're going to turn the body to the right. So twist and look back over the right shoulder. And then bring the arms up in the air, lift the rib cage high, twist and look to the left. And 2 more times, lift up, twist to the right, and last time lift up and twist to the left. Let's bring those arms up in the air and place your hands in prayer pose. Now we're going to interlace your fingers and press out, tuck your chin into your chest and stretch that upper back. And the arms, thumbs go back. Pinch the shoulder blades together, just reverse that. Look up in the air. So our back is an extension, and we're going back into flexion. We're going to hang forward, so round out your back. Slowly bring your arms down towards your toes and just hang there. 2 deep breaths. Now, if you have a block, or if you have a small stool, or if you have a box, and you can stuff a couple of towels in the box to keep it firm, go ahead and put it right in front of your right foot because we're going to start to use the block. And if you don't have one, you can still experience how it would be to use one. So what we're going to do is take our right foot up on the block, and I want you to experience the difference between standing here and here. There is quite a difference. So if you're just starting out and trying to work with your balance, don't force yourself to bring your foot up in the air and struggle. Use the block and then engage those quads again. Pull up through the navel, out through the crown of your head, and see if you can find good stability there. Bring the arms out from the shoulders, and then we're just going to lift that right leg up and see if we can be stable. If we can't, we can always put it back down. It's easier to put it back down on a block than it is to go up, down off the floor. So you're going to go up and down and feel your weight transfer as you do that. Now let's try bringing the arms all the way up in the air into prayer. Interlace your fingers, bring your thumbs and pointers together. Now try it, lift it up. So modified tree pose with that leg straight out in front of your hip, lifting that left kneecap up, stabilizing the body as much as you can. We're going to try the other side now. So let's place the block in front of your left foot and then put your left foot up on top. Engage your quads, engage your core, pull up through the crown of your head, bring the arms up in the air once again, hold here, and try to come up and down off that block, lifting that leg and putting it down. Now, some of you may have had surgery on one of your legs, on your hip, your knee, possibly on your thigh from one accident or injury. So make sure that you're accommodating your body. You may not be able to do this on one side, but if you can, go ahead and lift that left leg now and hold it up in the air. Continue your breaths. Try not to round out the upper back, but keep the chest lifted. Now we're going to put that left foot down, bring the arms back behind you, interlace the fingers, pull your shoulder blades together, press your thigh bones forward now into a little standing backward bend. Now we're going to show you another use of the block, and that's for stabilization. So we're going to take the block, move your feet comfortably apart, slide the block between your knees. Now, when you put the block between your knees, you're going to squeeze the knees against the block. This causes your legs and your pelvis to become more stable. So when we do a pose, what we call chair pose, it's easier for you to control the descent down. So squeeze your legs together, squeeze them into the block, and now as you come down, you're going to try lifting one arm. The same thing. Imagine sitting those hips back onto a high stool and just maintain that pose. This is called Utkatasana, or chair pose. Utkatasana in Sanskrit really means mighty. So mighty pose, nice and strong, long. Bring those hands in prayer. Let's try it again. And if you felt it was too much on you to keep your arms up, you can keep them in prayer. So let's try it again. Sit back down, using the strength of the quads. Pull your hips back over your heels. And when you're able, start to bring those arms up in the air. And just hold there. Feel the shoulders strengthening. Feel your back muscles strengthening. Driving the navel into your spine. We are creating the bandhas in yoga. Mula bandha, drawing the pubic bone upward. Uddiyana bandha, drawing the navel inward and lifting the rib cage upward. And Jalahara bandha, keeping that head in neutral and keeping your chin dropped towards your chest. Now we're going to bring those hands back into prayer and come back up. Very nice. Let's take the block out, and this time we're going to move into a split stance position. So we're going to take the right foot back, and I want you to look at the distance of your feet. Some of you may not be able to put the feet as far apart. You need to have both heels remain on the mat. Very important for stability. We're going to be placing the block on the outside of your left foot. You can certainly have it up on the highest side if you choose. Irene's going to demonstrate it with it high. I'll have it low here. We're going to start actually in Virabhadrasana 1. So let's bend that left knee and lift your chest up high. Bring the arms in the air here. Let the shoulders fall back. And then in Virabhadrasana 2, we're going to stretch the arms straight out from the shoulders, opening the hands wide, splaying the fingers wide apart. Now we're going to pull that left hip back, bring your left hand down on the block, and place it firmly there. Now, in Uttiti Trikonasana, we want to make sure that we have a nice long pull through our neck, through our cervical spine. And in doing so, we have to lead through the crown of your head. So I want you to keep your head looking down at your mat as though you had a cord or a rope. Pull your head straight out over the front of your mat. Then bring your right hand behind your hip. Still pulling the head forward, rotate the spine. Now, rotate the cervical spine, look up in the air, and reach up with your right arm. So lengthen across the front of your chest, opening up the rib cage as much as you can, and stay there in Uttiti Trikonasana, extended triangle pose. Stay strong. Now notice the use of the block helps you to square your shoulders, helps you with the overall alignment of the body so you're not struggling. Also, if you've tried this pose before, you may have noticed that if your hand is all the way down on the floor, you collapse into the shoulder. So by keeping the block underneath us, and certainly if you have it up higher, you can pull away from the block and emphasize the lift of the chest. All right, so let's come down, and we're going to balance that out by bringing both feet forward, taking the block on the outside of your right foot now, and coming back up into Virabhadrasana 1. So let's bring the arms up in the air here. Lift your chest up high. And then open to Virabhadrasana 2, stretching the arms straight out from the shoulders, separating your fingers wide apart. Look back over your left shoulder. Make sure you're nice and long. Now lead with your right arm. Pull that right hip back, straighten that leg, and you're going to come down to the block. Once again, look at your right foot this time. Make sure the head is in line with your right foot. You're going to bring your left arm over to the right hip. Continue pulling the head forward. Remember that imaginary cord from the crown of your head to the front of your mat. Stay there. And now start to open the chest. Look up in the air, keeping the shoulders, the foot, and the head all in alignment. Pulling down with that left shoulder, lifting the chest up high, looking right up over that left thumb. Continue your slow breaths there. And on the last exhale, let's return to the mat. Now we're going to step both feet together and grab a hold of the block and bring it up into your hands. So another way to create stability is in the shoulders. So we're going to hold the block, place your hands on the outside edges of your block, and we're going to hold it straight out in front of us. I want you to line up those big toes again. Create Mula Bandha, pull up through the pubic bone. Draw the navel into your spine and start to lift the chest up. And I want you to push into the block. And as you push into the block, pull your shoulder blades down. Lift your chest up in the air. So we can use the block for our extension, but also for our flexion, because now we don't have to go all the way down to the floor. As you come down, if it's better for you to have it on the high side, because you don't have that flexibility, go ahead and put your hands on it here, or if you can, here or here. So wherever you feel comfortable, let your head drop forward, stretching the back of your neck. Okay, we're going to go into another balance pose. So take your right foot back on the mat once again, but this time we're going to take the block to the front left corner of your mat. So here's where the block is now. We're going to bend that left knee, And we're going to come off the right foot. So start to come forward onto your left foot and start to lift your right hip. So we're using the strength of our glute medius and minimus, lifting that right leg in the air. And now, if we feel we're able, we're going to raise that right arm up in half moon pose. Look up into your right hand. Keep lifting that right leg in the air. Look up. Focus over that right thumb, holding that leg up high. Stay there, 2 more deep breaths. Then on the last exhale, soften your left knee, step back, and return to Virabhadrasana 1. Look up in the air. Now this time we're going to come down to pyramids pose. So place your block right out in front of that left foot. Place your hands on the block, and I want you to pull your head towards that block. Come down as low as you can. Now, if you can get your head on the block, you can place your hands on the outside, but direct the head in that direction. Some of you may not be able to get your head all the way down there, but just put it in line with the block, stretching the arms out away from the block on each side, but using that as a focal point. Now come back to center. Once again in Uttanasana, push down into the block, step that left foot all the way back, and move the block to the front right corner of your mat, and we're going to continue into half moon on this side. So here we go. Start to push into the block with your right hand, lifting the left foot off the floor. Start to use the strength of your outer thighs, lifting that left leg as high as you can. Push into the right leg, stretching those toes apart, squaring the shoulders left over right. Keep rotating the left hip towards the ceiling, flexing your foot, stretching upward. Good, holding as long as you feel comfortable. Most of these poses we're trying to hold for at least 30 to 60 seconds. Ardha Chandrasana. Let's come back down onto the mat and return to Virabhadrasana 1, lifting the chest in the air. And we're going to fold back down. Take that block in front of your right foot. Place your hands on the block. Try to pull your head towards the block in pyramids pose. And again, if you're feeling like that you can lengthen a little bit more, reaching forward to the front of your mat, pulling that head towards the block, stretching the back. Now before we move on, we're going to come forward onto the front of your mat, and we're going to use the block to sit on in a pose we call Malasana. So we're going to take our feet to the outside edges of your mat. You're going to place your block right behind your heels, right? Forming a kind of a triangle there. And you're going to sit down on the block, right? Now, some of you may not be able to sit as low, but if you can, this is the first level of Malasana. We're going to turn the toes out to the corners of your mat. And the benefit, the huge benefit of using the block for Malasana is a lot of people have degenerative hips. As they get older, hips and knees go. If you're active, or sometimes even if you aren't as active, just genetically you may be predisposed to those joints wearing out. This stabilizes your pelvis and allows your hips to relax. And potentially you can benefit from more flexibility in the hips through the gracilis muscles than you would if you tried to keep yourself lifted to avoid pain in the joint. So let's place our elbows on the inside of our knee. And if you feel you can move the block a little closer in, go ahead and do that. Now, You may not feel an adequate amount of stretching for your body and may want to take it down a notch. You can always do that. Remember, we can move this block. So if you feel that you're getting better at Malasana, you can go ahead and sit a little lower on the block and keep it there. Okay? So you have lots of options with the block, but it gives you a little bit more release through the hips and certainly less pain if you do experience pain in this pose. All right, so we're going to come out of Malasana, and now we're going to turn ourselves to the right side of the mat and into a wide spread fold. So we're going to turn our toes to the center of the mat, and we're going to place the block right in the middle of the mat here. We're going to place our right hand on the block, and we're going to turn to the back edge of our mat in a modified revolved triangle. If you feel you can go down lower, certainly go down lower. Open the chest and look up into your left hand. Now you can certainly put your hand on the floor, but for some of you, if you did, you wouldn't be able to stack your left shoulder over your right. Now keeping your right hand where it is, take your left arm under your right and grab for your right big toe. Pull back with your left shoulder and feel the stretch behind that left shoulder. We're going to switch arms. So place your left hand on the block, turn to the front, bring your right arm in the air, and lean back into that right shoulder. Look up in the air. Try to square your shoulders, bringing the left side of your chest around, and look up. Open that hand, spreading the fingers wide apart. Now on the exhale, we're going to bring that right hand under your left shoulder, reach for the big toe, and hold there. Stretch across your back. All right, now we can utilize the block to put our head on. Now, again, you may find that this is too low for you. Follow Irene, she has it on the higher side. You're going to go ahead and place your head on the block and use that for stability so that you can bring your hands back behind you, make a fist, and then squeeze your shoulder blades more tightly together and pull up towards the ceiling. Stretching the pecs and the shoulders, reaching up to the ceiling, squeezing the shoulder blades as tightly together as you can. Pulling those arms up, hold on to that. And then bring those arms back down. Now, I'm going to borrow Irene's block because there is another pose that you can use the blocks for. And if any of you are more advanced and want a technique to utilize to get into firefly pose, Irene's going to let me use her block. And I'm going to place my blocks just slightly wider than my shoulders. I'm going to put my hands on the blocks and I'm going to walk my feet over to the right side of my mat. So I'm going to press down into the blocks, and that gives me that little extra lift that I need to come up into firefly. So I'm going to lift my legs up and push outward. And then I'm going to come back up and fold down. And I'm going to tie my hair up so I can see the next one that I do. All right. So, once again, walking through it one more time. Bring your hands back underneath your hips. Walk your feet over to the right side of your mat, the opposite side of your mat. You're going to collect those legs. pull your navel up to your spine, lifting your hips as high as you can, and then pushing outward. All right. Thank you, Irene. So let's come back to the front of our mats. Bring your feet together and come back up. Stretch those arms up in the air. Interlace your fingers. And when we push a lot into our wrists, we really want to release those wrists. So first of all, you're going to extend those arms out and upward. And now we're going to turn those hands so your fingers are pulled inward. Try to curl your fingers in towards your palms so you really feel that stretch in the front of the wrists. Now we're going to bring those arms down and move those hands around. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you so much for viewing today's program. Until next time, namaste. But please join us for our concluding stretches. We're going to be doing some nice lateral stretches here. So we're just going to keep moving. You can join us right to the conclusion of today's session.